Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Issues and Updates for March 28, 2023. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, what's up?
Thank you, Chair Smith. Commissioner West is not feeling well today and will not be here physically in person. He may join on Zoom if he's able. He's not here yet, but if he does join, I'll let you know. Chair, would you please convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District.
This is a request for consent agenda for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Item 1, approval of a supplemental budget resolution for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for fiscal year 2022-2023. Fiscal impact is a transfer of appropriations of $153,000. Funding is through beginning fund balance, property taxes, fees and fines, and other revenue. No county general funds are involved. Mike Bork is the director of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gary, and good morning, Chair and Directors. This is really just an accounting process. We have had greater expenditures in our nutrition program, which is really the Milwaukee Community Center. It's our Meals on Wheels, as well as some of the other activities at the Milwaukee Community Center. Also in our transportation, higher numbers. So the proper way budgetarily for us to account for that is when we've recognized it is to do a supplemental budget. So the $153,000 between nutrition services and transportation services is coming out of our contingency budget. And I will entertain any questions if anybody has on that.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Shaw.
Mr. Bork, how's that going to put the NCPRD budget going into the next fiscal year?
It's not going to impact it.
All right, thanks.
Further questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, so the additional, under number 2 here, the additional monies for nutrition is solely food?
Yeah, food and personnel to operate as well.
A personnel or multiple personnel?
I couldn't answer specifically. I know overall when we were running our numbers, we were going to be coming up short. So I believe most of it is food supply, but I believe there's also personnel costs involved in that as well.
Okay. I'd love to get a breakdown. I thought you might have that answer to that very basic question that I just asked, but on the 15th, I believe, was the last time we met as the Board of Directors for NCPRD. And in the early part of that meeting, I posed the question about SDCs.
Correct.
And I was waiting for a response as to how or why and what was drawn out of the Zone 2 SDCs. And I've seen the emails exchanged back and forth, but that one question still remains unresponded to. It's 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since that.
Which question are you? This question on these expenditures for our supplemental were never asked.
No, I'm not talking about. No. I'm sorry. I need to be perfectly clear. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the other question I asked on the 15th regards to SDCs.
I replied to that
I know
yesterday.
It's not associated with this, but I asked a question 2 weeks ago. I did not get a response.
I responded to it yesterday.
I saw how you responded, but did not answer the question as to what the expenditures were out of Zone 2 SDCs. I saw a lot of other words in there, but no response as to what was drawn down out of Zone 2 SDCs.
The request that we had was for Zone 1 specifically on questions about Milwaukee Bay Park and the UGMA charges, and that's what we responded to yesterday. I can provide Zone 2 breakdown, but as far as we were going back, we were asked on Zone 1 with Milwaukee Bay Park. I'm not quite sure what this is with our supplemental budget, though I don't want to confuse the issues. I can provide you a further breakdown beyond what's in the staff report, that we had higher expenditures on our Meals on Wheels and transportation program, and we need to do a supplemental budget on that. But we responded to everything as far as, and there is still a question hanging out that I'm waiting for a response, but it's not related to what you're discussing.
So the common denominator here is, I appreciate words, but I really want answers. So I'm getting a little frustrated, honestly. It should be showing through here. I'm a little frustrated that I ask a question, the common denominator here, hey, you have an over expenditure. Granted, you're explaining it, but I'm just asking how many personnel? And I think if anyone would know, you would know.
Well, I'm the district director. I said I can reach out and find that information. I don't hold my thumb on the transportation and nutrition program. I have to reach out to others. We provided a staff report that has been the same staff report format that gave the generalities of expenditures. It's due to higher than anticipated program participation in our nutrition program. The offset of the 153,000, 15,000 for transportation is going towards our Meals on Wheels program. What I don't have off the top of my head beyond that, because I don't even usually get into that level of detail when we're talking about having to do budget transfers, is how many specific staff it's impacting and what, poundage of food increased. I don't have that breakdown. I said I can provide that. I'm not sure beyond that what I can say.
Okay, I'm just going to again, I'll just leave it here with this. I'm adding 732,000 and 163,000 for item 3, which is transportation related to Meals on Wheels, as I glean from your response, for a total of roughly, 900,000, and no detail as to really how many FTE are involved. Sounds like more than one. So we can work it out later. If you can maybe tell me who I could contact at NCPRD to get the answer, I'd appreciate that.
I will get the answer for you.
Okay, but Chair, you all do what you want to do. I just can't support anything today.
Well, we're not voting on anything today. Let's go forward on Thursday's business meeting agenda.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And maybe you can get some answers by then.
I hope so.
Okay, up next.
Right, thank you, Mike. Next, Chair, would you please convene as the Water Environment Services Board?
I will recess as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and convene as the Water Environment Services Board.
This is Water Environment Services. You have a public hearing this Thursday. This is a quick briefing for you. Prior to that hearing, it is approval of a supplemental budget resolution for Water Environment Services for fiscal year 2022-2023. Ron and Aaron from Water Environment Services, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. I'm Ron Waringa with Water Environment Services, and I have Aaron Blue, the district's finance manager, with me to answer any questions if you have them. We're here today to request a public hearing to consider approval of supplemental budget for fiscal year 2022-23 for Water Environment Services. The proposed supplemental budget increases the budget for capital outlay for the Surface Water Construction Fund by $380,000 through accessing contingency of $247,500 and increasing the transfer from the Surface Water Operating Fund by $132,500. The increase in budget for our capital outlay is needed to accommodate additional spending on drainage projects that we did this current fiscal year due to unforeseen issues found during construction, the need for additional support in construction management, the approval of 2 projects, ARPA funding for 2 projects by the board this year that we are getting going on, and also increased current year spending in our Three Creeks project, which is progressing ahead of schedule. Staff respectfully requests the public hearing to consider approval of this supplemental budget.
Okay,
Thank you.
questions or comments on this?
Chair, just wanted to say thank you, Ron, for yesterday responding to my questions I had asked prior, so
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
Okay. Any objections to this going forward in a public hearing? Seeing none, okay, talk to Gary and we'll get it scheduled.
Great, thank you very much.
Already scheduled for this Thursday. This was just a prep,
Okay.
so we'll
Thank you very
have
much.
that this Thursday. Thank you. Chair, would you please convene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as Water Environment Services Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
This is a request for consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. Under County Council, item 1, approval of a board order to extend the cable television franchise with Wave Division, doing business as Astround Broadband, no fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Jeff Munns from County Council, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. We have a number of cable franchise contracts in this county. Astound Broadband holds 2 of them. We have 2 separate franchises. We're negotiating both of those currently for renewals jointly. And so one of them expires earlier, actually expires tomorrow. The other one expires next July. And so what we're doing is moving the earlier expiration date, extending it rather, to be the same as the other franchise. We're in negotiations with them currently. We expect that to be concluded well before that date, probably in the next couple of months, and we'll be back within a renewal for the combined franchise agreement.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Finance Department. Item 1, approval of a personal services contract for as-needed professional real estate services with Apex Real Estate Partners, Brown and Carter Management Group, and Lancefield Realty, each contract not to exceed $150,000 for 3 years, total not to exceed $600,000. County General, all right. This does use budgeted county general funds. That should have been the answer in the report. All right, go ahead, Elizabeth and Ryan from Finance.
Yes, good morning, Chair and Commissioners and Administrator Schmidt. I have with me Ryan, our Procurement Manager, to take us through the staff report for you.
Yep, we have conducted a competitive procurement seeking multiple on-call real estate contracts. These services will include a whole host of things, different scenarios, primarily negotiating real estate purchases in all capacities. These are a standard personal services contract representing a lot of different scenarios. So at $150,000 each, we're bringing them to you in the case of maybe a commission sale or something to that effect, and then kick that price over. So we're seeking your approval first.
Yeah, Mark.
I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat that last sentence?
Well, the way that these contracts are structured is they're structured to address a bunch of scenarios. So what they are is an on-call scenario or a master contract, at which case when a specific task needs to be issued, we'll do a task order. And some of these task orders could or may include a commission-based transaction.
Any other comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner West is online now. He's on Zoom, and he was for a few minutes ago. Sorry about that. He is here now. Next, still on consent agenda, Human Resources. Item 1, approval of a personal services contract with Ogletree, Deacons, Nash, Smoke, and Stewart for a chief negotiator for contract negotiations with the Clackamas County Peace Officers Association and the Federation of Parole and Probation Officers Represented Employees. Total contract value is $605,000 for 7 years. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. I am presenting this item. Commissioners, you are already aware of this, that the county has agreed to hire a chief negotiator to support Eric Serra, our Deputy Director of Human Resources, who is normally the county's chief negotiator. He is asking for assistance on these 2 particular represented union contracts. So we have hired this person, Kyle Abraham, who works for this firm. He's already done work for us at Clackamas County the last time the Peace Officers Association's contract was up for renewal. So Kyle has experience with Clackamas County, and he's knowledgeable and will do very well for the organization. So simply seeking your approval to approve this formal contract with him for a 7-year term.
Is this for only the POA?
And, no, also the FAPO, Federation of Parole and Probation Officers, those 2.
Okay, great. Any further questions? Commissioner Scholl.
Mr. Schmidt, is this type of contract common in the past?
Yes, we have used an assistant negotiator to support Eric because as you know, there are 9 represented contracts the organization works with, and so Eric is amazing but can't do it all himself. So we have done this in prior years, yes.
And Mr. Schmidt, the price of this contract, how is that established?
It is based on, and Eric was going to join online to help me, but I'll answer best I can, is that it is just based on the going rate for such negotiators. It's an attorney, a law firm that supports us, consistent with funds we've spent in the past. It is budgeted funds, but it is all general funds, but it's over a 7-year time frame. And I can get more for you on that if you'd like.
Okay, so this contract will hopefully end up saving the county money in the future?
Ideally, yes, over time.
Fingers crossed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no objections?
All right, next, Transportation and Development. Item 1, approval of a board order authorizing purchase of 3 2024 Freightliner 114 SD trucks with Columbia dump bodies installed through a State of Oregon cooperative purchasing agreement with Premier Truck Group of Portland. Total contract value is $783,039. Funding is through the county road fund. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Transportation and Development, go ahead.
Chair Smith, Commissioners, as you know, the work of transportation maintenance, they move big things and need big vehicles to do so. So basically, before you, we have a request to purchase 3 2024 Freightliners with Columbia dump bodies installed through a cooperative agreement. I guess if I were you and I saw terms in here like useful life, I want to know what that means. Essentially, we target a useful life for these vehicles between 20 to 25 years, give or take. We are cycling them through more on a 21-year cycle right now because there's some diesel requirements we are mandated to meet at the state level. So we're trying to do that more proactively so we don't get to a point in time where we have to replace more of the fleet in one swift action versus this more incremental action that we have. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. If you have more detailed questions, I have Warren Gadberry, our fleet manager in the back, who can assist with those.
You've given a fairly detailed proposal with a picture, which I like pictures. So these trucks are quite large, and it appears to be a flatbed. Are you going to equip them differently?
So basically, the contract as proposed buys the chassis, which is the flatbed that you see, and it also buys the dump body that's accompanying that. So basically, they will be a complete unit when they are delivered.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other?
With a variety of attachments for snow. The spec is long. Snow plow attachments, gravel disbursement attachments, all kinds of interesting things. So.
Great. Any further comments on this? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 2, approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of right-of-way easements and fee property and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions for the Stafford Road, Patullo Way, and Rosemont Road project. Total project value is $16,516,846. Funding through the Community Road Fund, System Development Charges, and House Bill 2017 Safety Funds. No county general funds are involved.
These declarations are not new to this board. Essentially, this is the first step on a capital project that allows us to go out and have good faith negotiations with adjoining property owners. Right now, we're assuming this project is expected to impact 17 properties abutting the project alignment. There is no formal condemnation action that is contemplated at this point in time. Should a condemnation action come forward, obviously we would engage the board in that discussion prior to any action taking place. Essentially, again, this simply authorizes our right-of-way staff to go out and start good faith negotiations for adjoining property owners.
I'm going through the documents. What type of safety to this road will happen based on this improvement?
So right now, it's one of the higher projects in our transportation system plan for improvement, and primarily based off crash history and capacity in that area. You know, Stafford Road, we've been focused on Stafford Road for some time. There's also other intersections south, 65th down there that we've been looking at as well. Commissioner Savas is aware of that. This project was prioritized by our advisory group, and essentially it's through the realignment. A lot of the safety is improved via the realignment of intersections. We have an offset there of 2 intersections that intersect Stafford Road. If you recall, if you've driven through that area much, essentially this project will realign those intersections, drawing them into a roundabout, well, I think a roundabout and a signalized intersection designed right now, and we're assessing which one to go forward with.
So are you going to install a new roundabout? Did I hear that?
That is correct.
Okay, already.
That's the preferred assumption right now. Yep.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just as usual, Dan, not for you or my colleagues per se, but just the public, is I just want to renew my concern about the lack of city participation in some of these projects as they continue to grow and our unincorporated roads are in between. We're bearing the brunt of the growth cost by providing that. It's a safety issue, so I'm supportive of it. But it just, again, another opportunity to point out the fact that as the cities grow and they collect SDCs and all that, we don't have a means right now with joint transportation TSDCs to, apply those to impacts on our unincorporated roads. So just puts the unincorporated area just another step back with dollar-wise as far as our ability to meet all those needs out there as our cities continue to grow.
You're right in your assessment. We don't have any, we used to have, for example, out in Happy Valley, we had a joint district that's been terminated. But we no longer currently have those joint discussions. We are talking with our partners when applicable and feasible. What's great about this project is the large amount of SDC money we're able to target towards this project, because SDCs need matching funds for those, so we're able to match our local funds against those SDC funds, rural Clackamas County funds, to leverage them more efficiently and effectively. So, yep.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, did the Stafford CPO weigh in on this project? I know this area has been of concern to them.
Yes, during various points in time. Has it been a recent weigh-in? I can't affirm that. I can confirm that and get back to you, but I know that they were very involved during the development of our transportation system plan, and they are a very active group that is interested in activities that go on in that area. But I can confirm that and get back to you.
One of the things that the Stafford CPO was really concerned about, and I've never accepted that tolling's going to come. I've been fighting it, but the Stafford CPO was concerned about the potential for diversion on Stafford Road, which will become a big deal. And will this project, again, God forbid if tolling starts, but would this help to mitigate increased traffic on Stafford Road?
Yes. This project, though, was contemplated and planned before any of the tolling discussion even took place, based off the existing conditions we are facing at that intersection.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no objections.
All right, all of these items will be on this Thursday's business meeting agenda, Commissioners. Thank you. Next item is legislative update. Trent Wilson from Public and Government Affairs will present. There was a memo that was sent to you yesterday, Commissioners.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners, and good morning, Administrator Schmidt. I'm Trent Wilson with Public and Government Affairs. We're here today to talk about a potential joint letter that we can sign with many partners across the county, but hopefully the region as well, to address tolling at the state legislature. Thanks for your comments just a minute ago about tolling. So the letter is in your packet. It covers 4 primary topics, and very shortly those things are requesting the legislature to, if tolling were to happen, to align the timing of the I-205 project with the regional project. Number 2, to schedule a public hearing with the Joint Committee on Transportation. Number 3, to put the Regional Toll Advisory Committee into statute to directly advise the Oregon Transportation Commission on tolling issues. And 4, to direct ODOT to develop a formula that allocates tolling revenues directly to impacted jurisdictions. This letter has come about because there are many Clackamas legislators who are concerned about the implications of tolling, and they've all introduced different bills, and that is creating some confusion about what is the actual priority. And so, Chair Smith, when you were in Salem a couple weeks ago, you heard the same thing. What is the community's primary concern? Our cities, West Linn and Lake Oswego, have also recently been meeting with Senate President Wagner, asked the same question, give us a little bit more direction. So those mayors from those 2 cities put together a draft. They were going to create a mayor's letter, but then thought, you know what, it would be great if we had everybody on board. Can we do this with the county? We got this draft together to the middle of the end of last week, and we're in front of you today to see if this is something that we can all agree on and move forward with together. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you for bringing this forward. At my last mayor's and chair meeting, I offered to the mayors in attendance and all the mayors in Clackamas County, would you like to pen a joint letter in opposition? What do you want to say? And most of the mayors thought that was a good idea. One mayor said, doesn't matter what we say, which I'm really glad this letter has come forward. Specifically, which cities will be signing on to this?
It would be the dream that every city in Clackamas County could add their logo to this letter, and we think that the language here could also potentially get the support of other partners in the region outside of Clackamas County, because this is consistent with a lot of the things that regional partners are saying as well.
And I also made the statement, this letter does not preclude any jurisdiction sending another letter, or maybe they have sent letters before, stating their position. I think this is very good, of a combination of a joint effort, which I think is more powerful. I know this board has sent many letters to on tolling, and we will probably continue to. I really appreciate you bringing this forward, and I like it. Gary, what's up?
Commissioner West would like to speak.
Commissioner West, you're up.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there today, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. I'm curious if AOC is weighed in on this specific issue since it does impact a number of counties. I don't know if Commissioner Schrader or yourself have any insight on that. And then other impacted counties nearby the Portland area, Yamhill and Marion County. I like the idea of reaching out even beyond just our own county, maybe the city of Gresham. I think there's a big coalition that will help push back, even if we can't get every single city in Clackamas County, that we can, start to advocate to put a halt to this tolling scheme. So that's just a couple thoughts I had.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, the answer is, Commissioner West, as near as I know, AOC has not taken a position on any aspect of the tolling, let alone this letter, so they have not seen it. So that's one. The other thing I just want to say is that I support the letter. Inclined to make it stronger, but we're trying to get consensus across the region. I think that's got strength in numbers, so I recognize that. So I will, just say I appreciate all the hard work our staff did and the staff of other jurisdictions to put this together, and consider it a good move.
Thank you very much, Commissioner West. This is a Clackamas County-only letter. You bring up points that would include a broader conversation on a statewide level. Thank you, Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, the letter looks good for what it is. It's missing, in my opinion, a piece. And that piece is the Orange Line cost $1.5 billion, 7.7 miles, paid for by federal and state money, not one word about tolling involved in the project. The Abernathy I-205 project is half the amount, $750 million. The $400 million of that goes to the Abernathy Bridge, which is not going to be paid for by tolling. So that leaves $350 million for the I-205 expansion. This tolling thing is not about paying for transportation infrastructure. It's a long-term, lifetime shakedown. That's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader.
So, again, to my knowledge, the Association of Oregon Counties has not taken a position on this. Would the board like me to take it to the executive committee and actually have it come up as an issue in the Community and Transportation Committee?
You're talking about AOC?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Really? Okay, fine.
Well, this is a Clackamas County letter. I mean, the fact that we have the cities already on board with this is a really big deal. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with Commissioner Schrader that I've been in contact with some of the AOC members about bringing, once this legislative, if there's hearings or not hearings, whatnot, as this is taking shape on the transportation world, I want to attend their April meeting, the Transportation Committee meeting. So I'll be there, just to let you know.
Okay, great.
Okay.
We can work on that.
Thank you. Is your light on, Martha?
No, it's off.
Gary,
Commissioner West would like to speak.
go ahead.
You guys pretty much said it. I like our Clackamas County letter. That is, I think, within Clackamas County. But this has broader, I think we also need to look at another approach along with our letter, and that is that this does have state implications and future implications with transportation. So I do like the idea of starting that conversation with AOC. And that's kind of why I brought that up, and just looking for every opportunity to get allies across the state to push back against the scheme.
Trent.
Thank you. So yes, this letter is intended to collect the signature, or the logos of all the Clackamas jurisdictions, but we are going to reach out to folks outside of Clackamas County, including Marion and Washington County, Metro, others who might be wish to sign on to this because they have similar positions. So it is directed to our Clackamas delegation because of the I-205 project is specifically in Clackamas County, but the regional project is beyond that, and it sort of speaks to both of those pieces. So we will reach beyond just the Clackamas group and to see if we can get a broader coalition. We can work with AOC to see if they'd like to sign on as well.
When I was at the legislature about a month ago, the Senate president said, I don't know what anybody thinks out there about tolling. And I said, what? And I gave him 3 talking points off the top of my head, which basically this letter reflects. I do think, Trent, we need to get this letter out as soon as possible to the Oregon delegation with the Clackamas County cities on it. Further outreach on an additional letter for other jurisdictions is fine, but we need to get this out now, because I'm going down this afternoon. And I'm sure I'm going to be asked, gee, what's the position of Clackamas County government up there, which includes the cities? And so I can bring that. Gary, do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this letter as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved the approval of the joint county cities letter on tolling, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please take the poll.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
No.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
It was 4-1, Chair.
Who voted no?
Commissioner Schull.
I'm very sorry on that. Passes 4-1. You know, and did you want that math included in it? Is that why you voted no?
Chair Smith, my concern is that so this letter and so much of our communications with ODOT seem to reflect a acceptance that ODOT or that tolling's coming, and I refuse to accept it. My constituents won't let me.
Yeah. Well, your constituents are our constituents, so we all have the same constituents. Thank you very much for stating your position on that. The letter passes 4-1. Thanks. Anything else on this topic?
That's it. Thank you, Trent.
Thank you.
Next topic is to brief you on a public hearing you are having this Thursday, which is approval of a Clackamas County supplemental budget resolution for fiscal year 2022-2023. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning again, Chair and Commissioners. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. And again, yes, we are requesting a public hearing on Thursday on our 3rd supplemental budget for the Clackamas County fiscal year 22-23 budget. As per Oregon local budget law, found in ORS 294, we require a supplemental budget before a fund or department can exceed its budgeted spending limits. So today is a supplemental budget request of $25,776,911 to increase our spending limits, which majority of them have equivalent offset of revenues to include in the supplemental budget. These updates are itemized in your staff report. I'll briefly go over them. The first one's related to our county council, recognizing charges for service revenue and then increasing operating expenses for $44,000. Items 2 and 3 are related to our public and government affairs, transferring our PEG dollars to a special account string of $393,868, and that's to identify those dollars separately from regular operating expenditures. Item 4 is in the Sheriff's Operating Levy Fund, reducing contingency and bringing that spending authority up for potential payments to local agencies for shared issues. There's none identified at this time, but potentially there are shared events where we pay out to our partners at local agencies, and that's $30,500. In special grants, which is our ARPA fund, we are transferring $8.3 million to operating expenditures, and those are for the broadband expenditures that you've already approved, so this is just identifying those dollars to be spent. Number 6 is H3S, our House and Human Housing Services, recognizing additional new revenue for the Project Turnkey and Energy Conservation Helping Oregonians, and that increases the expenditure authority of $15 million. This is still a placeholder. I did verify with H3S that we still wanted to continue with this transfer for permission, even though the voting was reversed last week. So just in case you had any questions on that. Number 7 relates to the
I'm
health.
sorry, Elizabeth, say that again, please.
So we're still moving forward with the supplemental budget to create the spending authority, which includes the energy conservation, helping Oregonians, and for Project Turnkey. So we're still moving forward with the supplemental budget. Does not mean we're going to spend the dollars, but we are including that capacity.
So all this material is prepared before the decision, the board you made yesterday, so it was already prepared, so you can either go through with this section, we can remove this section from this Thursday, or we can do another supplemental budget in the next week or so, because this now is opposite of what the board has directed last week.
So you could omit number 6 from the supplemental budget.
I would feel better about that, because
Okay.
if we don't, we're going to have to come back and redo the budget, another supplemental budget.
So this just gives permission to spend. It doesn't say you are going to spend. It gives budget authority. So if the dollars aren't spent, then there's no change or requirements.
Then we don't have to come back and do, because of the large amount, redo the authority.
Correct.
All right.
This is more of a placeholder at this time.
Okay. Is that okay,
Board
Gary?
advised to keep it for now, and it's not, the staff's not going to spend it, it's just creating the authority, and you will guide us if and when or how to spend, if at all.
That is correct, yeah.
All righty. Questions for commissioners?
Well, were you going to go through 7, 8, and down, Elizabeth?
I was, if you'd like me to.
I am curious about number 7, for example, so could you speak to that?
They're increasing revenue from additional grants and fees, and then are adding additional positions, and those total $231,000.
Okay, so we just want to make sure that wasn't associated to the Sandy Health Center, because it's under the Health Centers Fund.
Yeah, Health Center has several programs, and I can follow up which program this falls under,
Right.
but I don't have that information.
Yeah, and it's maybe a question for Rod with HCS, make sure that that facility was, the expenditures and everything were closed out. I know that was over budget, that project. I think it was
Correct.
over budget. I know that it came back to us over and.
A million times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems
several
like a million
times.
times.
So I got my eye on that one. And then, could you speak to number 8 as well? Stone Creek.
Yes, this is also recognizing additional course fee revenue, and then increasing their maintenance expenses by the $200,000. So I think we lost
Increased
Mike.
expenses, you said?
Oh, no, he's not here.
Yeah, Commissioner Scholl?
I'm trying to think.
Yes, Elizabeth, I don't understand this one. $192,996. And you're saying it's you're saying it comes from additional fees and expenses? I don't understand that.
On the,
It's additional course fee
number 8.
revenue, and then it's going to increase the maintenance expenses. So we have offsetting revenue and expenses. And we can ask Dan, potentially, if we have further.
They want to come forward on the golf course, so the golf course is doing well, they made more money, and so now they want to spend it on maintenance, that's all.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
That's
Okay,
it.
good, that's fine.
Sorry, I wasn't clear on that.
I got it.
Elizabeth, did they raise fees, the green fees at the golf course, or is this more people participating?
We can certainly ask
Dan?
Dan.
Come on forward,
Well, I'm
Dan.
just curious. I mean, I'm to assume if it's more income, people are getting out more. I don't remember thinking we raised our green fees on it.
Note to self, I should not be working in the back, I should be listening. We are seeing, and over the last 2 years, we have seen a significant increase in participation in bookings at the course, and we are seeing that number, retreat a little bit, but not much. I'm not aware of any significant fee increases at the golf course whatsoever, so it's just additional revenues coming in.
But you said there were expenses. Labor has gone up?
These are maintenance expenses, so they're doing more maintenance around the course with the additional revenue.
And
Well,
we've
that's
targeted,
labor.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's labor, but go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, and we basically are having discussions with them about what maintenance they are doing. So this is basically like emergency maintenance we need for safety of the golfers, et cetera. There's no significant large-scale expenditures that I'm aware of.
But I'm just concerned, this is one of those projects that's very, very labor-intensive, is keeping a golf course in good shape. And I'm always concerned about our workforce situation in Clackamas County.
Mhm.
You don't see any issues with that?
didn't hear a question. I heard a statement about your
Okay,
concern about the
I'm
labor.
just concerned about the workforce issues, and thank you for being on
Yep.
top of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other, Elizabeth, have you finished?
Pretty close. Just the last one is, we do this each year. TS has, our Technology Services Division has a lot of projects that carry over year to year. And so what we do is we recognize their last year's ending fund balance to the beginning so they can utilize those dollars in the current year to continue the work on those projects. And that completes my request for a public hearing.
So,
Thank you.
Chair,
Yep.
just quickly, Elizabeth, there's a lot of moving pieces in this one. I see 3 different lines change. So it's all carryover, not carryover, but that's all related to incomplete projects that are
Correct.
carrying over to the next year?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing no objections, we will have a hearing on
This Thursday.
Thursday.
Yep. Great, thank you. Next item, Oak Lodge Library land purchase from the Concord property owned by the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. You are meeting as the Clackamas County Commissioners to discuss this item. Just remember that. I know you know that. Jeff Munns, Assistant County Counsel, will present.
I will open a discussion. I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners. No?
You're still the Board of County Commissioners. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, you'll recall you met as the directors of the Board of NCPRD on March 15th to discuss this, in which you approved the purchase of land from NCPRD to construct the New Oak Lodge Library at that location, at the Concord School property. And so what this is a discussion and a request for an approval of the same purchase of property from NCPRD for the construction of the New Oak Lodge Library, and to direct staff to prepare the purchase and sale agreement and the IGA that would allow the county and NCPRD to be working towards construction of that library in that location. We had had their discussion on the 15th about this, and then previously we had discussed it in December of last year, and then we had met with the Oak Lodge Task Force, as well as the Library Board and the District Advisory Committee for NCPRD to discuss this question previously in an evening Zoom session, and had reported to you the results of that. And so I attached to the materials today also the materials from our meeting on the 15th of March, so you have that to reference as well. But happy to answer any questions or to go over more of the details of the discussion from the 15th, if you'd like.
What action are you asking from us today?
As the Board of County Commissioners, we're seeking your approval of the purchase of the property from NCPRD for the land necessary to construct the new Oak Lodge Library. So there's some estimates in there that when we had the meeting on the 15th, the surface area needed just for the building is about 0.34 of an acre for the 15,000 square foot library. But that does not account for any potential setbacks or exclusive use areas for the library. We're working through this process, and we've different options for the purchase of the property. It would be a condo plat, lot line adjustment, so that type of a scenario. However, we're looking for it to be the least amount of property necessary for the library, and then to allow the most flexibility of the site for both the library and the park operations.
And we don't have a specific figure today, but you're just asking for permission to move ahead with this.
Correct.
Commissioner Savas.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Well, that just helped answer one of my questions, so thank you for this. This is really the other side of the equation, the other hat, right? Yep. So it's complements what we had already decided in another capacity. All I just wanted to say is, keep up the good work, and I want to make sure that we are working in good faith with each other, right? And both the districts, so the district's protected and the library county's protected. So to me, it's all the same, but I want to make sure that, it's done fairly and that no one's harmed, and it's done in a way such that the NCPRD is not subsidizing this library. That's the principle. I think I want to make sure we are cognizant of.
Yes, of course, and that's something that we've been working on, is for how this agreement can be something that is fair and stable for a very long time, so that these two uses can coexist on the same property and as good neighbors. So absolutely.
Yeah. In all actuality, Chair, that the fact that this project's been going on for so many years, and it was done in the spirit of the recognition that this would be a benefit for both the district and the library project itself. So it's mutually beneficial. I want to make sure it stays that way. So.
Yeah, we discussed this at our meeting last month. I think that we've gone on the record as saying that. Do I entertain a motion on this?
Chair, I move to approve the action.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the Board of County Commissioners in the matter previously approved by the NCPRD Board of Directors for the eventual acquisition of property to build a library. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussions? Hearing none. Tony, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner West. Aye. Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Was Commissioner West on? I got distracted.
You
Yes,
voted-
madam.
You voted yes.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Sorry for not hearing you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. So we'll bring the final IGAs to you as the commissioners and the Board of Directors of NCPRD in the next few weeks.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Great. Next, your review of your business meeting for this Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 10 a.m. You'll have a public hearing on the Clackamas County supplemental budget. You will meet as Water Environment Services and have a public hearing on the Water Environment Services supplemental budget and all the consent agenda items from today's session you discussed. If you have any questions on any item, please let me know prior to Thursday, and happy to answer it for you. Next, Commissioner Schrader has a Mark Prairie Schoolhouse funding request.
Yes, and also, I see that Mayor McGriff is in the audience. I believe she wanted to say a few words. I don't know if that is our policy, however, during this process, so.
Not normally.
Not normally, so I will leave that up. No? Okay, then, thank you. Okay, great. If I have a question, I'll be there. And if I'm missing something, just nod your head, and I can ask for clarification. So this request has come to us, and of course, I'm interested because it is about historic preservation. I'm bringing it forward for us to consider because the Mark Prairie Historical Society is requesting funding assistance, $250,000, in order to get their schoolhouse into compliance. This funding would support seismic upgrades, ADA, and health and safety improvements. The architect who was responsible for permitting believes the process has gone quickly and smoothly and understands these improvements are necessary for any property to protect its occupants and to prevent litigation risk. However, he did not recommend any waiver of the requested requirements, so I do have to put that front and center. That is from the architect. I do know that our budget is limited, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because I was a part of a very robust historical preservation division. It was in-house. It really helped us appreciate and preserve history and culture to keep and tell our stories, but communities aren't aware of how to reach that support. If they can access preservation support through county dollars, I want to highlight that perhaps there are resources available, but at this point, historical societies can now go to the Oregon Heritage State Historic Preservation Office. I would suggest there are grant opportunities there for heritage-related projects, and I strongly encourage the Mark Prairie Group to seek out those opportunities, and I certainly would bring it before the county to see if we could also support them. If you wish, however, we could look at a $250,000 allocation. I don't know what the will of this board is with that. That's why I'm offering an alternative as well, because we are going to be dealing with a restricted budget. And I would like to ask, and may I ask Mayor, ask you a quick question? Could you come forward? I'd really like to
Martha?
ask her. Yeah.
We ruled on that.
Okay, sorry, Denise.
You know, she can submit her testimony. It would have been helpful for me personally if the members of this group would have submitted additional information, but
Okay.
quite frankly, I don't know that it would have mattered. Gary, what's our funding source for this?
It would, well, we could see if ARPA funds, if this would be eligible for ARPA funds. I don't have an answer. We can check on that. It would not be lottery dollars. It would probably be general fund.
Okay.
And my question regarding this, we do this historical project in need, and every historical project in the county is in need, and that opens up the floodgates that we can't control. And I have said, yeah, there's a lot of projects that I have personal interest in, that I don't bring before this board, and I think it's going to be very difficult. We have stated over and over again, we're trying to balance the budget in budget constraints, but our budget is healthy. You look at one of our neighbors to the north, the governing body is not so lucky. So I think Commissioners, I'm not sure who was first, Commissioner Savas and then Commissioner Scholl, is that all right?
Yep. So Chair, I might just suggest, so I can keep track, maybe a list of all the requests for funding like this. I know that we've getting one or two or a week or seems, and I would certainly like to know, number one, what the, just a brief description of what it is, the amount requested, and the time in which there's a drop dead, timeline or a challenge if there's a, so to better understand them and list them all together so we can, if we do have an opportunity, whether it's ARPA, whatever it may be, and obviously have some research done to see if what funding streams are eligible for this, we can have a better understanding. But there's just, again, the flow of the requests are coming in. I can't really keep track, but I think it'd be a good tool for all of us.
Yeah, I can't keep track either. I mean,
I would certainly want to have this added to the list. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
I had funding requests this week that I don't even know how to answer to it. It's so humongous. So it puts us in a very precarious position. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, that was my concern too. How much time do we have to decide on this? We have a very challenging budget cycle coming up. If we could wait until we can have a picture of what the budget looks like after 1 July before we decide on this, it would be helpful.
Is your light on again?
Yeah. I just want to say I concur with Commissioner Schell, if we could at least, but my fear is I don't want to give false hopes to folks. I have to tell you that this is very hard on me because I was here when historic preservation in Goal 5 was one of our main priorities as a county, and we listed through our planning process all of our historic properties that were of significance to the history of Clackamas County, and this Mark Prairie Schoolhouse is one of them. I'm beginning to worry because I'm seeing a lot of those structures now that have been designated because of lack of funding, and again, we don't have that significant function anymore in our planning department, really pretty much being lost to prosperity. So I am a little concerned about that. I brought this forward largely because I know most of the folks. I know their work in historic preservation. I know Mayor McGriff has been at the national level in historic preservation. So I felt compelled, given my past history in this county, to at least present it to you colleagues. And, I understand we have a constrained budget, but I still feel that we needed to give this some airtime. So thank you for understanding that.
Gary?
Commissioner West would like to speak.
Commissioner West?
Commissioner Schrader, thank you so much for bringing this up. I think it's an important issue that probably a lot of counties need to address. I do support the ideas coming from Commissioner Savas and Scholl. Let's see what we have before we promise anything, but I do believe this should be on our radar, and we should be having long-term discussions about this issue, about historic preservation, because once those assets and those things are gone, they're gone, and they're lost to history. So I do support Commissioner Schrader's concern on this issue, and it would be interesting to see what we do have as we go into budget cycle, or what is potentially or maybe even not available as we move forward. But I do think this is something that should be part of our conversation.
Okay, thank you.
We've also had requests for other
Oh, yeah.
historical stuff that this board hasn't acted on either, I don't believe. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I certainly understand and aware and felt the pain myself of trying to get someone to take a property or a building that's failing, right? And you have this anguish that, well, can we save it? Can the community save it? So these efforts, I too have, feel that. We have just so many assets, historical assets around the county that, need some, life pumped back into them to keep them upright and restored or whatnot. And I just wish there was a funding stream for that, let alone our archives that are not necessarily structures or property, or real estate property, that is. So definitely understand the need and the anguish, but let's please add this to the list and get an idea of the timeline.
Okay.
Okay. We'll add it to the list that doesn't exist yet, just in our minds.
Right.
Right.
That's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Make a list, please.
Make a list, that's fine. Yes. You have another comment? Oh, making a list and checking it twice. Yeah, we Santa Clauses. Is that right?
It's only 8 months away.
Okay.
Isn't that why they call it the Christmas tree bill down in
Yeah, well,
Salem?
that's
Yeah,
insane.
I
That's
know.
not at the Board of County
That
Commissioners, I can tell you that right now. Right. Okay, thank you, Martha, for that presentation. If anything, it highlights the issue of historical structures in Clackamas County, of which I'm a fan. I owned one that was, that I turned into a wonderful property, but it's very expensive, and it takes a lot of time and maintenance. And I think it probably bears a larger conversation overall. But thank you, Mayor Griff, for coming in today. I appreciate your participation and advocacy for this, as always. Gary, anything else?
So staff is going to put together a list of all of the funding requests, and we'll do a nice chart of what the possible funding streams are. We'll bring it all back to you, whether you want to wait till the budget's done or around that time for you to make decisions. So we're on it.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Thank you. The final item today is Commissioner Communications.
Oh, who wants to go first?
I'd be happy to.
You bet. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, you might be aware of the Association of Oregon and California Counties oversees the work of the BLM to manage some 2.1 million acres of ONC land. In 2016, the BLM, the Resource Management Plan, reduced harvest area by 80%. So the 1.2 billion annual board feet that is produced off that 2.1 million acres are harvested now, and the proceeds that the counties get that are involved with Association of ONC lands is down to 205 million board feet. In 2019, the Association of ONC lands brought a lawsuit against BLM. That's currently, we won that. It's currently on appeal. And here this spring, we should hear the results of it. At the recent Association of ONC Counties meeting here 2 weeks ago, there's discussion about, well, what if BLM wins their appeal? What do we do then? So there's an idea discussed to take the case to the Supreme Court along in conjunction with a partner, American Forest Resources Council. Now, if that happened, the estimated cost to take it to the Supreme Court is around $287,000. That'd be the cost of legal fees to the association. The other half being borne by the American Forest Resources Council. Now, there's been no request to the counties for this money yet. I'm just giving you a heads up that because in our county, we have 5.71% of the 2.1 million acres, and that's 93,000 acres, and we get 5.71 of the proceeds. So we have a big interest in the long term in this case. But if the association does come to the 15 counties that are involved, our 5.71% of that 287,000 legal fee would be about $16,000. I'm just telling you this. It might not happen. We'll see what happens in the district court in Washington, D.C. But that's the situation there.
Well, thank you for bringing that forward. We get income off of that, correct?
Yes, millions of dollars.
And I don't know what we do with that income. Has it been spent yet? Gary?
It's earmarked for specific purposes like road fund, education, some public safety, but we budget it. But we can make room in it for this if necessary.
So would we need to budget for that in this upcoming budget cycle if this was to go through?
I'll just make sure there's room for this expense if it comes to pass, yes.
Okay, good. And
I
it'll
hope-
just be a set aside, and if we don't spend it, it's still there.
Okay, yeah, I hope to hear in the next 30 days what the result of the appeal by BLM is.
Oh, okay, good, good, and then you can bring it back. And we do have a funding source for that, that's good. Up next, Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about something I learned yesterday through our Economic Mobility and Leadership Network. And it is called the ARP Learning Community, ARP, American Rescue Plan Learning Community. And it's been put together by a group called Results for America. And what it is attempting to do is to give counties, hopefully our county, I was going to be talking to Gary and Nancy Bush about this. What are the tools that you need and the priorities that you need to quantify since, quite frankly, Congress is going to be looking for tangible results. And this is a toolkit that will build data, evaluation, and community engagement capacity, long-term and evidence-based interventions that will drive towards equitable outcomes for residents. So anything that we are using ARPA for, we're going to be required to show the metrics that meet those policy priorities and goals. So basically, some of the priorities are going to be with decision-making. For example, leveraging current policies and practices to efficiently spend funds. How did we leverage? Collaborating with other governments in the region. For example, we've been talking about working with Lake Oswego with the Habitat Project. So things of that sort, quantifying that. And then, this is a little interesting here, is building an equitable results framework. Are we being equitable across the continuum with projects that we are helping to fund for the people in our community who might need a little more bit of a hand up, I'm assuming here. Evaluation and data, so how do we evaluate it? Increasing data capabilities internally. That's something that, what do we do? Because I know our deputy administrator, who's been working very hard on ARPA, what is that? What do we need in order to make sure we're getting the right information? Running evaluations to understand pilot program results and defining evidence-based programs. So what works, what's evidence-based, what is successful, how do we document that so it can form best practices, not just for our county locally, but for our friends here in the across the nation and here locally in Oregon. Impact tracking and reporting, how do we increase transparency to our constituents and residents, and how did we identify eligible uses? And through all of this, this is something that Oregon has always done well. We are a very high involvement state, so they also would like to see us quantify and document how we engage community members and how we created effective messaging. So this was a really great learning tool for me. Washington County, Oregon, actually, is one of the learning community members. So they're already working with this group to try and determine how they're really going to meet all the criteria that Congress is going to ask for us to show how we spend ARPA dollars. So I'm hopeful. Gary, I can present this to you. I can talk about it with Nancy, and at least it may give us a pathway for when we have to justify how we've used money.
Yes.
So that's
Gary,
what I
would you
got.
like to comment on that, please?
I would love the tool. Sounds fantastic. So happy to work with you,
Okay.
Commissioner.
And the
Thank you
new
for that.
ARPA guidelines, I don't know how many versions we've had on how to spend the ARPA dollars. When will those new guidelines be finalized?
Any second now. We're
Any
waiting.
second now. From the United States Treasury Department. I suspect they have their eyes on a different ball right now. But-
They probably do, but it's.
And Martha, this came from
yeah.
NACO?
Yes, this is the National Association, this is my Economic Mobility and Leadership Network, the presentation that we had the other day. I also had a presentation from our IED, International Economic Development folks are going to be getting together in Washington DC with the Department of Commerce to really look at foreign direct investment possibilities. What they do is bring economic development practitioners from counties in contact with folks who are looking to invest, foreign direct investment here in this country. That includes places like Germany and England and Europe and things of that sort. I will not be going to that because it might be something eventually we have our new economic development person take a look at. But that was also an interesting update of what's been happening and how we attract and recruit businesses to invest here in this county. And we actually already have we already have businesses here that are a result of foreign direct investment, because a lot of our traded sector is not only here in this country, but we're talking in Ireland and other places around the world and globe. So,
Okay. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah. So colleagues, I won't say everything I want to say today. I'll save some of that for tomorrow. And if I happen to have a change of schedule, I'll be here Thursday perhaps, but currently I had something in the works for Thursday, so I may not be here this coming Thursday. So I'll be as brief as I can and not try to be redundant. But of course, right now I'm really not talking to my colleagues per se, as really my opportunity to respond to the events that occurred last week. It's my first opportunity to speak to it. And I'm going to be respectful, of course, to my colleagues' decision and recognize that. In this journey, with regards to the acquisition, it was our goal our recent goal over the last several months to capitalize on the awards of money, apply for the awards of money to purchase the hotel for housing the housing population that is interested in transitioning out of this current situation and is inspired to move up and move their way into permanent housing, not an emergency shelter purpose. And we did that with the goal, and appreciate Commissioner West's contribution and discussions to making sure that we had shaped that into something that was recovery-oriented, and also did not impact the community, the nearby community. I think we have seen where some of those models have gone wrong, and I know that as we stated from December 8th forward in our messaging that we were not going to do it their way, we were going to do it the Clackamas way, and I appreciate my colleagues who shared that sentiment. So yes, last week was a surprise. I accept the decision, so I'm not here to sway or move, but I just wanted to speak about some of the, my feelings about this, and that is that, what's come out of this over the weekend has been that as we step away, someone's going to fill that vacuum or void, whether it's a corporation or whether it's an individual or whether it's a nonprofit. And my concern, whether, for example, if you are part of the opposition to the purchase of this hotel for the purposes as been discussed over the last several months, you may be alarmed, perhaps, that it has a potential of being acquired by someone who would run it quite differently than we wanted to run it. And I think that we have an opportunity, which we'll discuss tomorrow maybe a little bit, to steer that maybe in a way that it is maybe a model that is more complementary to what Clackamas County wanted to do in the first place. But I certainly can't turn my back, frankly, and be silent about that. Everyone involved may be very, very unhappy if we don't do nothing. So I think that we are and the public's not aware of this yet. We'll be discussing this tomorrow, and I don't want to divulge anything. But I think we need to be very thoughtful right now and to address this. I still believe that the decision we made on February 16th, I believe, was a good one. I stand behind my decision. And I think while I understand the concerns of all the naysayers that were sent in testimony, before and afterwards, and came here and spoke on that evening before and afterwards, and all the previous testimony, frankly, going all the way back to September that we received on this. You know, we heard similar things when we did the Veterans Village, but we met our promise to the community that if it went wrong, we would shut it down, and that we really felt that by carefully negotiating a contract for services that would be ran in a way that would not have any impacts and have a positive outcome, actually, for the goal of trying to create or help people through this crisis that we're in. And we did that, and that was our goal here as well. So while I express some disappointment, I also want to let people know that I think we have to act responsibly to make sure that this doesn't go from something that maybe a lot of people didn't want to something worse than maybe people didn't want. The best way to put it is, I don't want to be in a situation where we're worse off than we ever anticipated as a result of the energy and the momentum that has occurred and interest in looking at this site. So that said, Chair, I'll just conclude there. I apologize for not being here last week. I've been ill. I got my voice partially back Thursday, and I'm trying to get better, but my fever broke, and I'm here, so I apologize again for not being able to be here in person or speak.
Well, Commissioner Savas, you have no need to apologize for getting sick. That goes around a lot. Commissioner West, are you, my microphone wasn't on. Apologize, no need to apologize for ill health. I mean, everything is going around. Commissioner West is remote just for that same reason. You never know, any one of us could catch something that keeps us at home at any time. Commissioner West, are you online, and would you like to comment?
Yes, Chair, thank you. And once again, thank you for allowing me to participate virtually and still participate even though I've been home ill. A number of thoughts. I will also hold some of my comments to tomorrow as we address these issues further. You know, as I look at this, many would like to create the narrative that this board is only looking at this through a singular lens and approach, this housing, homelessness, addiction, and mental health issue. When we announced that we'll be doing a Blue Ribbon Committee and more community input, as if that's the only thing we will be doing, and it is not. We can chew gum and walk at the same time, as the old expression says. And I think that this board, as this board has existed for less than 90 days now, we have to address the quality and issue, and we will be talking about that more tomorrow. I share actually some of Commissioner Savas's concerns that he just brought up. But as we address it, this issue is much, much bigger than one hotel. And Clackamas County has to start to build something from the ground up that looks different than what we have seen done all up and down the West Coast, in Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, LA. And we have to acknowledge that there's a large historical evidence of the failures. And we have to be very sensitive to that, because Clackamas County does not want to do it that way. And some of this is us also having to be willing to do the extra work that we have to execute a better plan quickly. And I think we're going to do that. And some of the conversations that are starting to happen, some of the planning, some of the brainstorming, is looking at innovative, cost-effective ways to maybe do that in a way that hasn't been done before. And I'm excited by that. And we are going to include the community quickly on what those plans are as we look to be nimble. And it's not easy for government to be nimble, but we look to potentially look beyond hotel purchases. Some of the concern that I have is, do our outreach towards the homeless, are they community oriented? That's a recovery focus, that's within recovery focus systems, but do we really focus on rebuilding community in people's lives? And what does that specifically look like? If it looks like that we are retrofitting some type of programming or wraparound services around a hotel, and that's the best we can do, I believe we can do better than that. And that we have to help people rebuild the thing that was broken, and it often comes down to community and how do we get people self-sufficient again. And there are some models out there that are done in other places, and there's some innovative thoughts that have even already been presented at the legislature that we might want to look at here more locally. And I'm excited by that. And there is going to be some tension as we start to chart a new path and show real leadership on this. I also want to be clear to say some of the narrative coming out of the media has been inaccurate. Some of it has not painted a clear picture. There was an article out of the Oregonian by Nicole Hayden, I believe, that she has a history of trying to be divisive on this issue and to not clearly paint the picture accurately in Clackamas County. And I want to make sure that we are getting the right messaging out there about how we're going to handle this. She does not represent fairly the community issue around this, the over 2,000 people that signed a petition, or the accurate number of people that really had issues with this quality and purchase. So sometimes the media has its own agenda, but we have to ignore that and continue to know the facts internally and push forward about how we're going to do this differently. And so I think it's important to say that, to stand up for Clackamas County, where there was some issues that there are some issues with us not moving forward with the quality and purchase, but much of what also was reported was not accurate either. So there's a lot of things flying around there, but in the midst of that whirlwind, we still have to lead, push forward, and quickly pivot. And I believe that we're going to show how to do that in Clackamas County. And so I guess that I'll leave that. I have more conversation around this tomorrow as we dive into this issue more specifically and as we address this more thoroughly. But I think it's important to kind of set the tone that it is much bigger than one hotel, bigger than a Blue Ribbon Commission, and there are going to be real solutions that solve local problems come out of Clackamas.
Thank you, Commissioner West. We'll have a very thorough conversation tomorrow. I am heading down to the Oregon Legislature this afternoon to talk with our Clackamas County legislators on several topics. The courthouse funding, which is our top priority in the Oregon Legislature. They have moved a bonding bill forward out of Ways and Means, I believe, or they're considering it, which is very good. And I believe we have a nice report in our email regarding that. I would also like to take this tolling letter that we agreed to sign, quite possibly just have it in my hip pocket in case I am asked, because I don't like to appear flat-footed, and any other issues that are before the county commissioners that they would be interested in. So thank you, board, for coming today, and staff for reporting, people for coming in and watching. We enjoy your presence. Seeing no other business before the Board of County Commissioners, we are adjourned.